Have you ever been curious about the deep transformative power of an ayahuasca trip, but felt unsure or uneasy about taking hallucinogens? I know I have. What if you could experience a similar shift in your mind and body using light healing and meditation instead? We're going to jump right into that today with our guest, Jeannine Jameson Buckley, who is a holistic health practitioner, Reiki master, and owner of Karuna Holistic Therapies. Together, we're going to dive into that alternative way to get that DMT trip that some of us may be hesitant to experience. You're listening to the New Age Human podcast, where we have mind-expanding conversations around science, spirituality, and alternative health to help you unlock your true potential and thrive in a rapidly changing world. My name is John Estacio, and I've been in the health and wellness industry for over 10 years, helping people improve their mental and physical well-being using lifestyle changes and now immersive meditation. And my mission is simple: help professionals and change makers go from stress to clarity so you can navigate uncertainty and live a purpose-driven, fulfilling life. Now, with that said, thanks for joining me today, and let's get to the show. All right, I am excited. Jeannine Buckley. So first of all, thanks for coming on the show. How's it going?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's going very well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I've been looking forward to our conversation because I do feel like we're going against some of the current grain of how people feel about psychedelics. You have some people that like hallucinogens, some people that don't like hallucinogens, some people that are they keep saying, I'm gonna do it one day, right? I want to take that ayahuasca trip and I want to see what I'm made of. And I'm on the side of that fence of maybe not for me. And I definitely want to dive into your experience with ayahuasca and then go into the idea of why you went away from hallucinogens in that traditional manner.
Okay. So, you asked me a couple questions.
Sure. And
My experience with ayahuasca was after studying shamanism in Machu Picchu, Peru. I studied with two shamans there and had amazing experiences, life changing. And at the end of that whole journey, I was in the middle of the Amazon rainforest and experienced ayahuasca in a hut with about 10 other people in a very black, dark hut in the middle of the forest. Um,
so going there, what made you say, I'm going to do this journey?
um, I wanted to elevate into that higher realm. I had done it before without psychedelics, but it was something that I knew was going to be transformative for me personally, and bring me into a higher spiritual realm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wait, so you've been in that realm before? Because usually people that
yeah.
usually their first your average person's first experience of that realm is during the ayahuasca trip, and you're saying you had a trip prior to that before ayahuasca. So if you don't mind, I want to get into that because I'm sure people are wondering, like, okay, so what's this?
Sure. So I'm probably an anomaly in this regard because I have that connection to the spiritual realm. I'm a channeler and I've had this connection since I was a child. Um, and I have had out of body experiences through just regular meditation. I've had um, transformative experiences doing these kinds of, meditative journeys, sound journeys. Um, so I think probably, I've learned how to astral project, which is not easy to achieve. It takes a lot of practice.
I've only
Um,
done that like once, and that was like by accident because I was so tired. I think my body just was like didn't know how to manage that the whole sleep pattern. So yeah, that's literally a trip right there. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But the shaman that I was collaborating with really encouraged me because I was really hesitant to do it because it's really intense, like really intense.
I've heard.
Um, but for me, it was sort of part of that spiritual experience, learning shamanism, right? Because a lot of the basis of what they practice is using the natural components of ayahuasca um, to get us into that spiritual realm, to disconnect our body
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. And then, so prior to that trip, you already like, you've figured out how to go outside of your body. You've already been in this world and this in self-discovery and understanding like how the body works. And it looks like the ayahuasca trip, like you're saying, you were you working with the shaman prior to the
Yeah.
ayahuasca trip on other
Yes.
things, but you never did that in ayahuasca trip
Right.
until then. Okay. So when you went to the ayahuasca trip, um, I think I said ayahuasca like 5 times already, like in like 2 sentences. It's the trip, psychedelics. So when you went on that trip, do you mind sharing what you saw? Because it seems like something happened where it was just too much. That's my guess. And then you didn't want to do it anymore.
No, it wasn't too much.
Huh.
I I loved it. Like, I feel like I got downloaded secrets to the universe. I went out of my body. I was shown visions of like how people came to be there, where they came from. You know, there's a book pending on all of this,
Mm,
because it was so intense. Um, I'm not saying I would never do it again, but the circumstances would have to be right, and I'd have to be in the right mental state to do that again.
right,
Yeah.
right. When you had that trip, um, you said it was a great experience and you had downloads. Did you see anything? Did you have visions? Do you mind like briefly describing your trip? I feel like whenever I talk to someone, I know someone wants to know, like, what did you see? Did you see the little people?
Oh,
Did a
yeah.
tree
Yeah.
talk to you, you know?
So it's interesting. So during an ayahuasca experience, the shaman usually chants and uses a rattle. And what he's doing is he's chanting to keep evil spirits away from you.
Oh,
Because when you open yourself to the spiritual realm, there is good and evil in the world. There are good and evil forces out there. And so that's his purpose, is he's trying to keep us protected. And while he's doing this, um, during it, everyone was laying in savasana around in a circle, and he was in the middle in a circular hut, pitch black. Like they blew out the candles, like you can't see anything in front of you. And my mind was playing tricks on me, and I actually cheated a little bit and put my phone upside down, because I wanted to make sure, like, is it my brain, or am I hallucinating, or is this like reality? It was my way of keeping myself like kind of grounded. Um, I went out of my body, and all of the things that I had done for the previous time that I was with the shaman, like, kind of came full circle. So I did actually feel evil coming towards me, and I was able to shift it and imagine myself floating, and actually it was feel like I was taken out of my body and flew out of my body with a spirit guide who basically flew me over Machu Picchu and showed me a light coming down from the sky, and how people basically came to come onto that part of the world, and some other things I don't know if I'm ready to share, but like that's sort of the gist of it.
wow, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
That's freaky. And it's interesting how you said, you still, even with the shaman chanting, you still saw some like evil in the area, and you were like, let me just go fly and go and stay connected to this guide. So that's an interesting experience, just flying around, seeing like the origins of the locals in the area. And um, instead of getting deep into that experience,
Yeah.
we're here to talk about more of your experiences after that and why you're doing that.
Right.
So let's get into that.
Okay.
So after that trip, you got into it seemed you got into light therapy, you started doing other projects, but essentially you decided not to go the direction of psychedelics to help people. You went the direction of, would you call it sober psychedelics?
Yeah. So, I had this business in Hawaii, Corona Holistic Therapies, and I was doing Reiki healing and meditation and channeling NLP, some grief recovery. But when I decided to transfer it here to Connecticut, I decided that I really wanted to focus on, as a holistic health practitioner, I really wanted to focus on that mind-body connection. How do I help people feel well by healing their mind so that they can then heal their body and spirit?
Mm.
So that was the reason behind it.
And why not psychedelics? Why lights and other avenues?
Sure. Well, first of all, so what we call sober psychedelics, there's a great article on rocsiever.com, which is the manufacturer of the light that I use. If you go on rocsiever.com, you can read a great article about sober psychedelics. It's by a gentleman named Lance Carter from this year.
If anything,
And
send me that link and I'll throw it in the show notes.
sure, sure. We know that there's a lot of excitement about psychedelics possibly being used legally over more recent years, right? So, um, there's remarkable results that they're finding, right? And in the power of um, a substance used in a microdose controlled environment to um, heal our brain, to reprogram our thinking, to heal us from past trauma, to relieve pain, to help us just overall well-being, to feel good. Um,
Interesting. And so you're saying you're okay with microdosing? Like it's fine?
I think it's up to the person's personal opinion, what they want to put in their body. But the sober psychedelics, like the light therapy, is there's no side effects. Like you don't have to worry about like nowadays we have things like fentanyl being thrown into our drugs.
Yeah.
We don't want to be exposed to that. You could be thinking you're taking a psychedelic, and next thing you know, you have this other substance in your body making you ill. Um, so using light therapy, number one, it's controlled. Number two, there's no side effects. And the third part of that is that, um, you have that ease of mind knowing that it's a safe way to experience the same benefits that you could, say, microdosing or using DMT or psychedelic, but without that possibility of those side effects.
Yeah, and I get it. And you brought up a good point because when I was growing up, you have friends that offer you narcotics. And the biggest worry for me of somebody offering me a narcotic or like a hallucinogen or something like that, I was always wondering, where is it sourced? Where is it coming from? Because I've heard horror stories of people just having wild experiences that were just unchained, and even like to the extent where they're just stuck in that zone. And I would just, me and my past over analyzing, overthinking, I sold myself out of doing that. I was just like, I don't want to get stuck forever in an insane asylum, rocking back and forth, talking about, someone's gonna pour me over because I am a cup of orange juice. My wife told me that a friend of hers thought that they were a cup of orange juice and they didn't want anybody to touch them because they thought they were gonna spill. And I'm like, I don't want that. What? And then you just proved my point. Like you never know, especially nowadays, right? There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And there's more people that are trying to get around stress and think differently, and they want to improve their lives, but there's all these options, and some of them are risky. And are you really going to do the research and pay the extra money to get like the really good quality stuff? And I like the idea of light therapy because I would say I would consider it non-invasive, and it's light. Your body's designed, it is part light. It is light, and we are exposed to light all the time. So it
Right.
knows how to speak that language a lot better, and you're not going to turn into a cup of orange juice.
No, you're not. And everybody has, a different tolerance. Everyone is a different size, shape, weight. Going into a psychedelic, if you're not in it, depending on your state of mind, it can affect you. Like so many things that it's not, there's too many variables there.
Hmm.
And that's
And
why you find most people are not going to do that. But the light therapy creates the synthetic version of a psychedelic that gives you those benefits without the psychedelic experience
Mhm.
of that substance.
I think this would be a perfect time for me to share that I went through your light therapy. I did a
Yep.
session. I threw an event, and you came, and that's when we met. And then after the event, you're like, you decided to offer a session. So a couple of us raised our hands, and I remember you saying that it really depends on the audience. Some people aren't attracted. Like, you go to events, right? And some people aren't attracted to the idea of a hallucinogenic trip, and so you have to be cautious on what you say. And I remember you asking us, what type of experience do you guys want? And it's a small group of us, so like
Right.
we all came from the same event. And you're like, do you want better sleep? Do you want what were the options? Because I know we chose the one that you weren't really sure
Oh,
of.
right. So there's three different ones. Some are special purpose, like with hypnosis, or when someone comes to me for like something specific, like
Smoking,
insomnia
oh,
or
something.
smoking cessation. Yeah, it could be another example. Then there's the meditations ones that are a little bit more subtle, but equally as effective, but they're not as intense. And then we have the psychedelic journeys, which masquerade like the DMT experience, which you have to be ready for. You have to be willing to let yourself go and go into this journey.
And when you gave us those options, we were all like, I want to have that hallucinogen. Well, the last one where I want to see some crazy stuff. Let's go. And one of us has gone on a trip, so they're like all for us. So we were
Yeah.
just like, all right. I'm like, whatever you guys want to do, let's go. I'm not worried because it's just light, so I was all for it. And yeah, when I don't want to say went under, but I closed my eyes, and I saw geometry, I saw shapes, I saw colors, I saw patterns. And then I asked you, I'm like, that's really cool how your light can do that, do all the different colors. And you're like, it's just white light, John, with frequency. And I'm like, wait. So my mind created all that other
Yeah.
stuff where it's like
Yeah.
all these shapes. It was a freaky experience. And yeah, I was feeling good. And I'm pretty sure I had a really good night's rest. It was like a year ago now.
Yeah. It
Um,
was about a year ago.
but it was a cool experience, I would say, for sure. And we were definitely like relaxed, to say the least. So that was a
Yeah.
pretty cool experience. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't think that light and frequency could do that in your eyes, but it does make sense because if you're familiar with cymatics, right, when you apply sound to material, it does create geometric shapes because sound is harmonic, and then it's all connected. So I'm wondering if it just mean like the liquid in my eye is like make turn to shapes, you know?
Well, it triggers brain waves um, through that though. But
Right.
but so let me explain um, what the device actually is. So it combines this stroboscopic white light with sound to induce this state of mind, right? This meditative state of mind or psychedelic state of mind, however you want to put it. We also sometimes refer to it as hypnagogic light machine or audiovisual brainwave entrainment. That's a big
Yeah.
word. But brainwave entrainment is also known as audiovisual entrainment. It's like basically a term used for the how used for the effect an external source of regular beats, flashes, or vibrations have on entraining and synchronizing our brain's own frequency to that external stimulation. So when you experienced it, your brain interpreted it differently than anybody else during the session because everyone's brains are wired differently.
Mm.
But that is sort of the understanding behind it. And then, if you look at the EEG measurements that show our brain operates in bands of brainwave frequencies, right? So it triggers these brain waves, which, whether they're beneficial or challenging states of mind, have this associated brainwave frequency to them. They have a signature, right? So when we know the brainwave frequencies are present during this particular state of mind, we can introduce and encourage that same state of mind. So for example, we have what's called theta waves, right? Theta brainwave state. So this is typically around 4 to 8 hertz in frequency. And this means that every second, there's 4 to 8 pulses of electrical activity across our brain. So the theta state is considered that deeply relaxing meditative state. And so when we use the light, we purposely entrain the brain to that frequency, this relaxing state that can be produced.
I like it. So
Yeah.
so is it true? And I've heard of this, and that's why I meditate. But isn't it true that the more often you get into that state, the easier it is for you to access that state? And if so, what changes in your life?
Yeah. So it does become easier. A lot of people have come to me over the years who were not able to meditate. They tried and tried and tried, and they just couldn't, or it would take them a really, really long time to finally get into that meditative state of mind. Um, so this is a great tool to be able to get people to do that. What was your second question?
Oh, so getting into that state, how does that change? What happens to you throughout the day, or how does this affect you during your daytime life, your personal life, your career? Um, I'm curious to see what you have
Yeah.
seen it do for
Yeah.
other people.
So, there's this actually scientifically proven mind body connection, right? Our brain's neural activity occurs, and when we alter it, we can change our state of body and mind. So when we do this, whether it's through meditation, through light therapy, like through TM meditation, and altering those perceptions, we improve our mental health, and we can help people, including myself, break free of emotional addiction and adopt new ways of thinking and feeling.
Real quick,
Get cheer.
TM meditation is transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Transcendental meditation. So when we do this, and we change our state of thinking and feeling, we can, we improve our mental health. We can relieve stress. We can, we get creative inspiration, productivity, mood enhancement. If we trigger beta waves, we're encouraging decision making, pain relief, sleep improvement. And then we also, obviously the out of body and awakening experiences with the psychedelic journeys. Yeah.
Mm. And for your clients, I'm curious, just nowadays, what do you see people coming to you more for? What challenges are you seeing pop up? Do you see any patterns
Yeah.
recently?
Stress, stress, because it doesn't seem like people have enough time, right?
Hmm.
Stress, and a lot of, because of a lot of responsibility that people have. Um, and they also feel they don't have time to devote to improving themselves. So they just get stuck in that same pattern of thinking. And then the other kind of people, I mean, a lot of different people come to me, but a, a large group of people that come to me for relief of PTSD and trauma.
Interesting.
And this is wonderful to release that trauma from our body and reprogram our brain. It's amazing.
Honestly, I'm not too surprised that nowadays there's more people talking about trauma. And I do feel like nowadays more people are running into more emotional challenges. And I believe it comes to the state of our world being more of, I mean, in the US, we've had it easy for such a long time. You're not in that survival mentality as much. And after that, you start moving into the emotions of managing all your opportunities. I
Yeah.
remember in the past, just talking with um, people back in the day, when just something as simple as going to school and getting shoes for school, you had tennis shoes and then dress shoes. There wasn't a whole wall of cross trainer shoes and basketball
Yeah.
shoes and running shoes. And it's interesting. I have conversations with people every day around how we the more decisions you need to make, the more decisive you need to be. And it could be more stressful having more options, ironically, especially like the people that win the lotto. They're not used to having all those options. And you have everybody coming at you with opportunities here and there. And so we're in this weird situation where in the US, I would say up until more recently, there was just been a lot. There still is a lot of opportunities, but more people are in the struggle now because of economy things. But
Yeah.
it does make sense what you're saying, that um, trauma could be coming. Like I'm saying, trauma could be coming from those emotional challenges of trying to
Yeah.
manage just everyday tasks,
Yeah.
and then um, there's an increase in children having broken homes and parents that are split, and um, I think I mean I am a child of a home that was split, and had two different Christmases and whatnot. So that type of life is normalizing now, and
Yes.
a therapy and a session like what you're doing, but whether it be meditation and a combination of light, is helping people to like harmonize their minds so they can think more clearly. So I appreciate it. I'm in the same industry, so I'm like, I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about because it's a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the more complex our world is, the more complex thinking we have to do, right? The more
Yeah.
complex decision making and problem solving that we have to do. It makes sense. And also, no one talk. I think people are starting to be more open. It's becoming more acceptable to talk about trauma than it was. Like when I was
Hmm.
growing up, it was like, oh, you have an issue, just like put it in the, put in the closet. Nobody wants to
Yes.
hear your problems. Like put on the happy face and pretend everything's okay, right?
I feel like
Um,
now. Oh, go ahead. Good.
no,
I was gonna say I feel like now, um, when you connect with someone, when I connect with someone, it's kind of like you have challenges too. Me too. You're weird. I'm weird. Okay, cool. Did we just become best friends? Awesome. Like, we make connections with our challenges, right? And then like, how did you
right,
deal with it? Okay, this is what I'm dealing with it, and
right.
that helps
And
me, at least me, to figure out cool different ways to deal with these challenges.
right, right. And, one of the most significant obstacles to personal development that, busy professionals have, and the people in general have is to get to that personal development and success is their inability to maintain that appropriate mindset when needed.
Hmm.
So, in other words, having the capacity to choose and maintain that suitable emotional state according to the circumstances is that cornerstone of fulfillment. And then the light therapy can do just that, just like meditation, except
Hmm.
it's in a shorter amount of time. I find it's more intense, so I think it's more effective, and it's control. Like, have you ever done meditation where like an hour goes by and you only meant to do 15 minutes and you didn't put a timer on, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm late for a meeting because I was meditating, but I,
It's funny because
time.
it's not a good idea to put an alarm for meditation.
No, it's not.
You don't want to get jolted out of it. That's which I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I wonder if you can program yourself. And I've done it for sleep. You know how you wake up like a minute, like 30 seconds before the alarm? That would be cool if you can learn how to program yourself to, I'm only going to do 15 minutes. And then your body just is like, all right, 15 minutes is up. You're like, okay, it's over. Well, yeah, that's happened for sure, where I'm just like, you're in your own world, you're meditating, and then some just thoughts come, and then you just follow those thoughts, and then it opens up another way of thinking, and then you're like, okay. And then for me, something triggers me. I'm like, wait, 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 how long have I been here before? And then
Yeah.
it's that feeling of like, did I oversleep? But it's like meditation, and you wake up and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I got stuff to do. Okay, cool. Well, that was a good session, John. Yeah. And another, that's why guided meditation also helps too with just I've had people just fall asleep. I'm like, I have to say their name to trigger their mind to like come back,
Get out.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you can't
Well,
just bang a pot and pan, someone's just, that's gonna be really bad.
mhm.
Oh man. Actually, there was something happened to me. Um, I'm not sure. Has that ever happened to you where someone just calls you, or you were just abruptly taken out of a meditation?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have 3 teenagers, so that should explain everything.
That's like, yes. I remember a friend of mine, and she was an interesting character because she can see auras. And she was the first person that I knew personally that can see auras. And um, that made me more interested in just learning what else she had to say, to be honest. And one day she was just like, hey, lie on the ground and I'm going to guide you into like a meditation. We're going to do like deep breaths and stuff. So I'm getting deep into it and I'm doing like these long, like I think 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out, like those like long, deep breaths. And it gets you in that state faster. And we were in the living room and I had roommates at the time. And so it was just a spur of the moment thing. So I'm just deep in there. And then we're right next to the entrance door. The door opens and my friend just loves to antagonize people. He just jumps up and he just starts screaming like, "Woo, woo, woo, woo," like he just goes nuts. And I felt like my soul left my body like in Doctor Strange and then came snapped back and like my heart rate was like all over the place and I was just lost and freaked out. And I'm like, oh my God, And then I had to go back into it because I was just like, I'm not gonna let this guy mess up my experience here. But that was just horrible.
Yeah. It's not recommended. And so, I mean, and I have had people go into trance-like states or, in during a session, whether it's a group or individual, and I kind of just have to let them, you know, or I maybe sometimes we'll start like hypnosis, like, okay, feel your hands tingling and your feet tingling and start to move your body and feel your body kind of weak. Like I have to kind of maybe go back to a script to get them to kind of come, but gently, not like, move.
You're not jumping out of a plane and then like breaking your legs because you're in the middle of war. Like you're slowly coming back.
Right.
Open and close your hands. Wiggle your toes and all that. It's almost like putting a glove back on, right? And you like just focus on one finger at the time. And if you're too quick, you're gonna have like two fingers in the middle finger area, and you're gonna feel weird, and it's gonna be bad, and things get stuck, and you're like, no. So that's how I see it, as you easing it back into your body. Because I know for me, after 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, I don't know where my fingers are. I don't know where my legs are. I don't know where my elbow is. You're just like one solid thing, and it takes different people different time to get there. But that's how I see it as. I'm like, okay, so let me just wiggle that. Okay, that's where it is. It's way down there. Okay, I thought it was right here. It's like these weird dialogues that you have in your mind. Do you ever have that when you're coming back? You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. I mean, every experience is different, and for me, every meditation is different, which
Yeah.
I think is the case for most people. Like sometimes you can go really deep and have a really amazing, mind blowing experience, and other times you're kind of in what I call like this lucid state, but you're not really deep. You're sort of just like floating,
Hmm.
like still conscious and aware, but you're more like more lucid. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to explain it.
Presently
Yeah.
aware. Yeah. Um, as we come to a close for today's call, our conversation, um, I wanted to give you a chance to share any tips that you may have for someone that is listening right now and they're just stressed,
Sure.
or maybe they're dealing with some trauma. Is there anything that someone can do right now? Because I know I mean, you're a Reiki master, um, you're a holistic health practitioner. You have a long history and list of things that help people with managing themselves. Really,
Right.
any tips that you can offer? That
Sure.
type of.
Right. Well, in general, a tip of advice is to make a small change or make small changes to improve your health that are permanent.
Mm,
Like do a little bit at a time. So, for example, we know that not getting enough sleep can stress us and make us not productive the next day. So, one small change could be being very mindful about going to sleep an hour early every night and then checking in on day 7 and seeing, well, how did my week go? Right. That's a very small change. Doesn't cost anything. It's just more of making that mindful decision to make a change. Um, for trauma, that's a little bit more challenging because a lot of people can't get out of the trigger that's causing the trauma.
hmm
Um,
Or even know what it is.
or right, or even know what it is. Um, but the other thing is being mindful of our thoughts, right? Our thoughts matter. Our thoughts affect our health. So the more we can think well, we will be well physically and emotionally well, right? So we're all our own worst enemy, so to speak, right? Like you hear people talking down about themselves a lot. I hear it all over the place. I teach young adults, and so I'm hearing their language and how they talk about themselves, and those thoughts are going to become reality because our minds control our bodies. And there's proof of this. Washington State University just wrote an article, and Washington University of Medicine, that mind-body connection is built into the brain. It's really interesting article about that, how our brain area that controls movement is actually plugged into the area that controls our thinking and planning and our involuntarily bodily functions, like blood pressure and heartbeat, like you were saying, your heart rate. So it literally represents a literal connection to that mind and body and this very structure of our brain. That's how our brains are wired. So if I can convince people of this, then maybe they could start to maybe change the way they think, change the words that they use, maybe learn some neurolinguistic programming from me. And, how do you take that next step? So without doing anything, be mindful. How do you speak to yourself? What is your self-talk like? What kind of words do I use to describe myself or describe my situation? Because when we're using negative words, those are coming from negative thoughts, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly, especially the self dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And separating yourself from that dialogue and knowing that you are not your thoughts, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, wholeheartedly agree. So, um, what are you working on right now? If someone is looking to connect with you, is there anything that you want to share that you're working on now, or
Yeah.
the best way to contact you?
Sure, sure. So on October 20th, I'm going to be at the Passport to Health and Wellness, which is a statewide holistic health event. It's at the DoubleTree in Bristol, Connecticut from 10 to 4. Uh, and I'm also going to be at the New Age uh, and Craft Expo on November 3rd from 9 to 5 at the Wyndham in Southbury, Connecticut. Um, my projects right now, I'm working on an NDE support group, that's near-death experience support group with my friend Amanda Thomas. She's also a spiritual coach, so that's coming up soon. This week, there'll be a free online meditation workshop. You can find me on Facebook at Corona Holistic Therapies. And then stay tuned because these are all in the works, but a women's retreat, possibly a transformational retreat to Costa Rica coming up in the spring, and maybe some more workshops down at Sticks and Stone Farms in Newtown, Connecticut.
A lot of events coming up.
Yeah, I'm
Busy month.
gearing it up. Yep.
Cool. Well, yeah, if you want to reach out, connect with Jeannine. Also, links will be in the show notes as well. Thank you, Jeannine, for coming on. I had a pleasure chatting with you, and a lot of really cool stuff around light therapy. I had an awesome experience. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to connecting to the listeners. And stay well, stay happy with love and light.